Hello everyone, it's September 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're ready now to begin our webinar titled Orientation to the ATE Conference for Student Attendees. I'm your host, Mike Lasecki. Thanks for joining today. I want to point out that the webinar is hosted by ATE Central. They support the advanced technological education community and act as the information hub. So thank you very much, ATE Central, for supporting our webinar today. The webinar will be recorded and you'll automatically get a link to the recording. You can share that with your friends or review it for yourself. At any time during the webinar, please use the chat window to ask us questions. We have several question breaks. And you're capable of downloading the student schedule, which you see on the middle right of your screen, and the poster guidelines. You can do that at any time that you choose during the webinar. Thank you for doing that. Let me introduce my colleague, Ellen Hause, our presenter for today. Ellen is the Program Director of the Academic and Student Affairs Division at the American Association of Community Colleges. She's headquartered in Washington, D.C., where the conference will occur next week. Ellen, thank you for joining us today. Please take our welcome and take us forward into the webinar.
Thank you, Mike. And on behalf of AACC, I want to welcome everyone on our webinar today and thank you for joining us. It's our hope this webinar will help to orient you to the conference, help you maximize your time while attending, and give you an opportunity to ask any questions prior to the event. So you'll see a picture of my colleague Courtney Larson on the screen. I'm sure you've seen some emails from her and will likely see a few more before the conference. She's unable to be in our webinar today, but she sends her regrets and she looks forward to meeting all of you in October. She is your main point of contact, and her contact information, if you don't have it already, will certainly be shared as part of this webinar. So I wanted to begin by going over what we'll cover on the webinar. We've broken this down into the following sections, and as Mike indicated, we have some question breaks where you can type in questions into the chat box, and actually at any point if you have a question, go ahead and type it into chat and we'll address it on a break. So we'll provide an ATE conference overview. We'll give you some general conference background. We'll go over registration, hotel, and travel information. We'll provide an overview of the ATE student specific events and also talk about some other commonly asked conference questions. So before we do that, I'd like to just launch a quick poll and get a sense of how many times you may have visited DC or if this is your first time traveling. So Mike, if you could launch the poll and if folks could vote, that would be great. And it's coming in. Great, thank you. So it looks like there's a large percentage of you that this will be your first experience visiting our nation's capital. I'm really excited for you to come and see DC. We have a lot to offer you, and not only at the ATE conference, but we build in a student tour and give you a little flavor of the city as well. So really excited to have everyone participate next month. Okay, we can close the poll. Thank you. Okay, so on to our conference overview where we'll cover the what, where, when, who, and why. So just in case you're wondering, what is ATE? You may not have known your programs were associated with the National Science Foundation, but the ATE program stands for Advanced Technological Education, and all of your programs of study are funded or funded in part by ATE grants from the National Science Foundation. The conference is called the Advanced Technological Education Principal Investigators Conference, which is why we just refer to it as the ATE conference, or ATE PI conference for short. And if you're thinking what is a PI, the PI stands for Principal Investigator, and this is a term used to describe a project director for a grant. And the ATE conference is a national professional development and networking event for PIs leading ATE grants and their project partners from across the country. And it was the project PI working in your program of study that nominated you to attend this event. The conference is co-sponsored by the National Science Foundation and the American Association of Community Colleges, and it's primarily funded through a grant to AACC. And for those of you that may not be familiar with AACC, we're the primary advocacy organization for the nation's community colleges. We represent nearly 1,200 two-year colleges across the U.S. and their 12 million students. And we've been working with NSF to host the annual ATE PI conference for the past 25 years. So this marks the 26th conference that we've done in partnership. So the where and the when, hopefully you're aware of the dates and the location. This conference is held each year in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Typically takes place at the end of October. The dates for this year's conference are on the screen, and we're located at the Omni Shoreham Hotel. And this is an actual picture of the hotel. It's really a beautiful historic property in downtown DC, and it's conveniently located on the red line of our Metro line system, and it's also within easy walking distance to a number of area restaurants and shops. Following this webinar, AACC will distribute a student's guide to DC, so that'll be in addition to the student schedule of events and the poster session guidelines that are available for download, as we're updating that student guides now. And that'll include area restaurants, maps, things, attractions, things in the DC, more of a DC tourist guide geared toward you. And so we'll be getting that out to you, how to navigate the metro. So that's forthcoming, and we'll send that to you over email as well as it'll be posted on the website. So who attends the event? Approximately 800 people attend the conference each year. And participants include those leading grants for ATE projects and centers and their grant partners from business, industry, K through 12, and four-year institutions. The conference also provides the opportunity for approximately 60 students to attend, of which you're a part of, and NSF program directors and AACC staff attend, as well as selected guests representing the federal government and STEM-related nonprofits and associations. So why attend? In addition to the quote on the screen, we always hear that this is a wonderful opportunity for students, and the students really appreciate the opportunity to attend. It provides an opportunity not for you to meet other students, learn about new technologies, learn about various STEM career fields, as well as provide you the opportunity to work directly with ATE leaders and industry representatives. The conference will also hopefully give you a chance to see some of DC and tour the city a little bit while you're here. So we're glad you applied and that you're attending. I'd like to just cover conference costs with you. Understanding who pays for what in terms of your attendance is always helpful. So students, for students AACC, we cover your conference registration fee and 2 nights of lodging at the Omni Shoreham, and all other expenses are covered by your respective institution or by your sponsoring ATE grant. So you would want to check with the PI that nominated you, that sponsored your application on other travel expenses. And if you've not done so already, you should, as I've just mentioned, discuss airfare, ground transportation, meal expenses with your PI. The majority of students travel with their PIs, and therefore your airfare and ground transportation to and from the airport would be covered easily by them. But if you're not traveling with your PI or another grant team member, again, you should coordinate with them on how those arrangements will be made and how those expenses will be covered. And to help you assist with planning for expenses, we do provide for the following meals at the event. We offer a pretty heavy reception on Wednesday evening that could constitute dinner. We don't call it a dinner, but it definitely is a heavy reception. We provide breakfast, a full breakfast on both days, lunch on Thursday, a very light reception on Thursday evening that coincides with a showcase session, and then we provide a box lunch on Friday. Do note you'll need to pay for any additional meals outside of what is offered at the event. To go over hotel accommodations, registration, and student activities, we'll do that in this next section. So for hotel, we're asking everyone, you should have received this from Courtney. If you didn't, let us know. We'll get it right out to you, that all students must complete the online student information request form. And that registration form is also where you indicate your needs for a hotel reservation. We ask you not to make your own hotel reservation because we have a block that we're holding for student rooms. However, if you've already done so, or if your PI already did so, do not cancel that reservation. Just be sure to send us the confirmation number or include the confirmation number when you complete your student information form. So that will allow us to instruct the hotel to make sure the billing on that room is coded to our account for those 2 nights. So as previously stated, AACC will cover 2 nights of your lodging. If you plan to come in early or stay following the event, you would be responsible for covering the cost of those additional nights. The rate for additional room nights is $263 per night. Welcome to October in DC. It's a high time. And the Omni extends the group rate based on availability for up to 3 days before and 3 days after the conference dates. And if you need to extend your stay, so if you needed to come in the Tuesday night and are leaving Friday, when you put in your student information request form, please include the full dates that you need your hotel reservation. We will communicate that to the hotel, and we would just make sure that the 2 nights are to our master account, and any additional nights we would ask them to bill you for ask you for a form of payment for that. So we can make your full reservation. We would just cover the 2 nights. When checking into the hotel, we do ask you to be aware that you will be asked to provide a credit card to cover any incidentals that you may acquire while you're at the hotel. That can range from room service to minibar usage. Please note that if you provide a debit card instead of a credit card, that the Omni will hold $75 per day at check-in to cover any potential charges to the room. So you'll want to pay particular attention to this because that actually would deduct funds from your account if you're using a debit card. And when you check out, the hotel would refund or release those funds depending on whether or not you charged anything to the room, but it can sometimes take up to 7 days after checkout to be reimbursed for incidental holds. And incidental holds are a hotel policy pretty much across the US, so there's not a lot we can do about the hold, but we just want to make you aware if you're using a debit card that could impact your account while you're on site. So please check with your project PI on how to handle providing a credit card for incidentals when checking into the hotel. And we also ask that you be sure to confirm with the front desk at check-in that your room is to be charged to the AAC master account for 2 nights. Since we personally make the student reservations, we don't typically have a problem with student billing, but if you have any problems, please come to the conference registration desk and we'll get you all squared away before you check out. All right, so after you check in, you'll want to come to the west wing of the hotel and pick up your registration packet. You'll need to sign in at our registration desk and print your name badge, and then you'll receive conference materials from the registration staff. We do like to note that by signing in, you give AACC permission to use your photo within AACC publications or media that promotes and shares information on the ATE program. If you have a problem or an issue with that, there is a place you can opt out when you sign in on the conference registration form. When you sign in on site at the kiosk to print your badge. We'll also provide an updated copy of the guide for student events, so that'll also be available at the registration desk. So we have that over email, we have that over this webinar, we have it on the website, and as we add more information and finalize it, you'll get it again at the registration desk. Okay, so I've covered quite a bit of the logistical pieces on hotel registration and that sort of thing. So I don't know, Mike, it's just a good place to see if we have any questions, if we want to take a question break at this point.
Thanks, Ellen. You know, you actually addressed a couple of the questions. One came up really fast about the debit card, and thank you for mentioning that if you can use a debit card, but they'll actually put a hold on that amount of money in your account. So thank you for clarifying that. And also, I know a number of students are thinking about potentially staying longer, and you made it clear that it's just the 2 nights that the conference is paying for. And am I correct? They have to make any other reservations themselves, right? We don't do that for them.
No, we would do that in terms of the hotel. So if they are staying Monday through Saturday, they would input that on their student information form. We would make their reservation Tuesday through Saturday, but the hotel would be instructed that only 2 nights of those we were paying for, and they would be charging that credit card on site, whatever you provided at check-in, for those additional nights. So if your PI is paying for any of the additional nights, because I know we have teams that are traveling from the West Coast and they do need to come in on Tuesday just to get better travel plans, and in that case the PI is covering that 3rd night. But again, we would make your reservation. It's just the 2 nights go to the AACC master account.
This question has come up twice already. One student texted me and said they're arriving at the airport at 1 o'clock. What time is check-in? And another of our colleagues also asked the same question. What time does the hotel check-in?
Check-in is typically at 3, though I advise you when you go to the hotel to just try to check in right when you get in. If a room is available, the hotel will accommodate that. There is another group on site when we're coming in, but that's the day they are leaving. So they have to be checked out by 11. So, chances are early afternoon your room is ready. But I always advise go ahead and try to check in, and if they have a room ready for you, they'll allow you to do so prior to 3.
Good, that makes sense. Here's a question I'm not sure of the answer. One of our attendees says, my aunt lives in DC. Can I invite her to come and watch the conference?
Unfortunately, no. We only have space allotted for student attendees, and it is primarily a closed event for ATE grantees and their project partners. So unfortunately, we would not be able to accommodate outside guests at the event.
Okay, that's clear. Take us forward, Ellen. We'll have another question break in a few minutes.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the student activities at the conference. So the AT conference has often featured student speakers in plenary sessions or concurrent sessions. We've also had breakfast roundtables led by sessions, and I have just personally gone through a lot of the session scheduling. I know some of you submitted with your PIs to present in demonstration sessions, so it's nice that we have student presenters that are routinely on the program. So just some pictures from past student presentations. And this photo is a photo of the informal student meet and greet. So on Wednesday, October 23rd at 1:30, this is an optional gathering for any students that have come in early to the hotel and they'd like to connect with the other students in attendance. Again, an optional networking event. We serve some light refreshments. We have all the students introduce themselves to one another. And it ends with a tour of the Omni. We address questions on site and go over the student schedule of events with you on site. And then it ends with a tour of the Omni, which is actually a historic property with a lot of interesting stories and interesting people who have been there. And then hopefully it includes a peek at the infamous ghost suite. There is a suite that is very seldom rented out because it is rumored to be haunted, and it's a really interesting tour. The last year we held it, though, actually there was some dignitary in that room, so we were not able to see it. But that's one we try to get you to see because it's just an interesting bit of DC trivia. So that's the student meet and greet. A highlight of the event is the recognition breakfast that's held on Friday, October 25th. It is early, 7:30 to 8:30, but we feed you well and we make sure you're recognized. This event is held in your honor. We welcome the PIs to attend with the students, and you're recognized and presented with a certificate from NSF. And those are, that on the right there is Celeste Carter, the lead program director from NSF, and then that's Dave Campbell, who is recently retired, but he was the co-lead director of the NSF ATE program. So the leads of NSF are there to honor you, to shake your hand, and we take pictures. So it's actually a fun event. So be sure not to miss that, even though it's early Friday morning. We also have a special student session on Thursday from 9 to 11 in the executive room. This is part of your student schedule of events, and it'll also be listed in the conference program. And this is focused on global career skills development. It's a workshop followed by industry speed networking. And it's led by an industry professional, really talking about the skills you need to get the job in today's workplace. And then we actually sit you at tables with industry representatives where you have the opportunity to talk with them in small groups. So this from a variety of backgrounds and companies. So it's a pretty enjoyable, it's fast paced. It used to be a 1 hour session, and we were told that's just not enough time. So we expanded it to 2 hours this year. As I mentioned, we do give you an opportunity. We built in time to make sure you see a little bit of DC. So we offer a DC highlights tour and a tour of the National Air and Space Museum. So as part of this, you see some of DC's monuments. You spend most of your time at Air and Space. And then we do a little bit of a walking tour of DC. So we ask you to please wear comfortable shoes. This again is an optional tour. It is of no cost to you, but you do need to sign up to attend, and you would do that when you fill out your student information request form. And we do advise you that if you're traveling with someone, Mike alluded to this, about an aunt, or if you're actually traveling with someone, if you're bringing your spouse or partner or a family member, unfortunately, they're not able to accompany you on this tour, either due to insurance and liability reasons and because we only have a set amount of space to accommodate all the students. So if you're interested in doing this, please just check yes on the student information form. And then there's information on your student schedule events of of where to meet to go on the tour. I believe we meet at 3 on Thursday, and the bus leaves at 3:15 and comes back around 6. And students really enjoy that opportunity. The ATE conference also has students participate in a student poster session. So this is a required part of your participation. We would like you to have the opportunity to share information on your programs of study and or your career fields. And to help you prepare for this session, there is a poster session guide. It's available for download from the conference website. And again, Mike pointed out it's a handout for this webinar. So basically, each student has a 4x4 space for their poster. So there are large 4x8 poster boards, and you have half of that board, 4x4. So students from the same institution or project may elect to develop a joint poster and display together. But due to spacing and visibility, we allow no more than 2 students to jointly present a single poster. So say you have 4 students from an institution representing 2 different grants. We don't want all 4 of you on one poster, though we could have 2 to a poster, just so we ensure visibility and that everyone has a chance to come through and talk. ACC will provide push pins and Velcro for mounting your pre-printed posters to the display boards. And again, the posters must be pre-printed and transported with you. ACC does not have printing capabilities on site. And again, the poster session guide gives you some idea of what you should include in your poster and some instructions on formatting. The pictures on the screen are from our poster session from last year. I will note it'll be set up a little differently this year. Last year we set it in the same room as lunch. Like the posters were right in the middle, but it was around the lunch. We're not doing that this year. We're going to give the students more space, and we're actually setting you in the ballroom across from the lunchroom. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So when you sign up for the poster session as part of your student information form, you're going to be asked to provide a short abstract that describes your poster. And this is a sample of how the abstracts will look in the conference program. So you'll be assigned a poster session number that identifies your display board, so you'll know where to set up your poster prior to the event. And Courtney will be in touch with you on that early next week. So you have your poster number, you know where you'll be displaying, and then we also number you in the conference program so people know where to find you. In terms of the student poster session schedule, so you have your career skills and industry networking session from 9 to 11, and then you would move toward the ambassador ballroom. We have a 45-minute window for setup. It typically doesn't take long to set up a poster, but we allow a 45-minute setup period. And then between 11:45 and 12:30, the Regency Ballroom, which is literally right across the hall, is open to you for lunch. So we suggest you go and get some lunch. And then we ask you to come back across the hall to stand by your posters from 12:30 to 2. And that's when PIs and participants will funnel through to talk with you. And then we do the teardown from the session is immediately following. And so again, another plug for tomorrow's deadline to get in the abstract and information on your posters so we can make sure you're included in the program. Okay, one of the highlights of the conference is food. We do our best to feed you well during this event, and the food events are offered around the exhibit hall right along the showcase sessions. So you have a poster session, all ATE projects and centers are displaying what they're doing in their projects in the exhibit hall, which we call showcase sessions, and our some main meals are around that. And obviously the lunch is centered around and built around the poster session strategically. We just gave you your own room so you have some space and you're not competing with people who are trying to eat. So again, we do a pretty good job of getting a lot of food out there, so you shouldn't go hungry at the event. In terms of other conference questions, in this section I'll talk about conference attire, internet access, and contact information. And I realize we're close to time, but I can zoom through this. So business casual, we suggest you dress in layers as conference rooms can be cool. We also suggest you bring comfortable shoes as there's a good deal of walking involved to get to some of the sessions in the exhibit hall. In terms of internet, we have wireless access code. You'll have it on the back of your name badge, so you have access to the internet in meeting room and common areas. You don't have internet access in the exhibit hall, but in other common areas you do. And we also provide you a code upon check-in so you have complimentary internet access in your sleeping room. There's that deadline again. That's tomorrow. So again, if you've not yet turned in or filled out your online form, please do so. If you need to make any changes to that form, just email Courtney and she'd be more than happy to assist you. And her contact information is pictured here on the slide. As we update our guide to DC for students and a little bit more information on the student schedule of events, we get that out to you. We also send you your hotel confirmation numbers and your poster session numbers so you know where to set up your posters. And I think with that, we come to our final question break. This is our students from last year, right after the student breakfast. So I just wanted to thank you for joining me today and letting me have the opportunity to talk with you a little bit about the event and what you can expect from the conference. I look forward to seeing you next month, and I'll turn to Mike to see if we have any questions.
We do, Ellen, and thanks for all of that information. One of the students said, what does it mean to stand by your poster? Should they prepare a speech or just talk? How does it work?
It really is kind of an informal, like if you've ever gone to an exhibit hall, you will actually stand by your poster. People will come by and ask you about it. We do in the poster session guidelines give you some things to think about. You're going to want to prepare a brief 2 to 3 sentence overview of your poster. So if you have that ready, that kind of helps break the ice with people who are coming to look at it. You might want to practice explaining it. Again, short sentences, just get comfortable talking about your project, your career path. And again, be sure to talk to people who stop at your poster. Don't just count on them to read it. They really want to engage with you. And you'll find that the folks that are coming to this event, they all work with students. The reason this program exists is for students. So they're really excited to see what you're doing and to hear from you. So again, just to have a couple sentences ready, and then these folks are very conversational, so it'll be really just sharing information with them about what you're studying and what you hope to do in your career path.
Well, good. Thanks, Ellen. Here's another question. How will students be arranged in hotel rooms? I mean, are these double rooms? How does it work?
Well, when you fill out your student information form, you indicate if you want a single or a double room. Some students prefer to share with another student. They're just more comfortable doing so. And if you'd like to do that, you indicate that on your student information form that you'd like to share and with whom. So then we make a reservation, putting both those names on the reservation and putting you in a room that has 2 beds. Or if you'd like your own room, we don't couple students up that haven't asked us to do so. So you would have your own hotel room.
Well, good. That makes it easy. Thanks. You mentioned all the food functions, but there's probably some food that's not provided, and hotel restaurants are pretty expensive. Are there other food opportunities like outside of the hotel?
Yes, and we're fortunate that the Omni is very close, literally across the street. There are options from Chipotle to McDonald's to a diner to mid-range to upscale restaurants. So there really is a wide range, very close within walking distance. And we will give you a restaurant guide. We send that out in your student information guide. We're actually updating the restaurant list right now because restaurants seem to change quite a bit in the DC area. But yes, there are very affordable options right across the street. And then also we are conveniently located on a metro line. So you could go up or down a stop. Down a stop puts you in DuPont Circle where there's a host of restaurants, or up a stop puts you in the Woodley Park area. Again, right off the metro are several restaurants. So, the Cleveland Park area. So there's a lot right at your disposal, very close to the hotel.
Ellen, you live in DC, and the metro is a big city public transportation system. Is it safe, and is there certain times of day you should avoid it, or we're not quite sure?
Sure. Now, the Metro Rail system is actually very safe to use, pretty simple and self-explanatory to get through. People tend to be very helpful. I would use any guidance that you use in any major city. Certainly just be aware of your surroundings, particularly if you're traveling late at night. But the Woodley Park area where the Omni is held, a very nice section of DC, but certainly in any new place, always be aware of your surroundings. But the metro itself is safe to ride.
I've got some more logistic questions, but let's divert for a moment to the question that you can see in the chat about the roundtables. Is this something that is selected on the student form? Ellen, I'm not sure myself.
In some cases, yes, we do run a student. If you've selected you're interested in running and being a part of a student roundtable, we do reserve a couple student breakfast roundtables. So when we go through those, we would be coming back to you asking if you would be willing to be a part of one. And then in some cases, student presenters have their PIs have been proactive when they submitted a session that they wanted to present at the conference. They included their students as presenters. So that deadline has passed. But indicating that you're interested in perhaps doing a breakfast roundtable, there are some slots there, and we get in touch as there is space to put students on those. Your main presentation point at the conference would be that poster session. So everyone does one of those, and then if you're interested in doing something else, we see what we can work out and accommodate.
Okay. I'm going to give you a breather for a moment. I'm going to answer this one, Ellen. Does the Metro connect from the airport? So I use it often when I come to DC. So you literally walk from the airport, you stay inside, and you're at the Metro station. So it's an immediate connection. And then there is one transfer of a line that you have to make, but it's straightforward. And then as you emerge from the Metro station, you look across the street and there's the hotel. So it takes about 22 seconds to walk from that exit to the hotel. So it's really convenient. As I remember, Ellen, it's something like $3 for the one-way Metro fare. And they have a kiosk to do the purchasing. I've also taken an Uber. It's $18.52 from the airport to the hotel. Now I'm referring to the DCA airport. I don't know the Dulles information, the other airport in town, but from Washington National DCA, Uber is $18. I took a cab one time and it was about $30. But Ellen, I'm not sure anyone takes a cab anymore. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But
I think some people still do, but both are available. Certainly, Uber, Lyft are prevalent in this area. You can certainly get a cab, and on our conference website, you can actually we detail what cab and Uber costs are approximately, so you can
good.
get a sense of what those costs entail. Certainly, knowing that you incur surge charges if you're coming in around rush hour on any of those modes of transportation.
Ellen, as a result of this webinar, they now need to make changes on the student information form that they submitted. Who should they contact?
They should contact Courtney.
Oh, and her
They
name.
just need, they can call her, they
There she
can
is.
email
Yeah.
her directly, yes, and I'll put in the phone number as well.
Excellent. While we're wrapping up today, Ellen, you've lived in DC for a long time. When you get away from work and you want to look around at the city, what's your favorite thing to do?
My favorite thing to do is actually to go down to some of the monuments, and I always say I do it at night, which you would have an opportunity to do as your Thursday night is free. There's just a different energy, a different mystique about them in the evening. So I like to go down and see the Lincoln and the Vietnam Memorial, and the Korean War one is also particularly a little eerie but quite beautiful at night. So it's just a nice time to be on the mall. There aren't as many people. The monuments are lit up, and there's just an entirely different feel to being outside then.
I remember one time when I went down to the mall at night, it must have been 11 o'clock. We were headed back on the Metro to the hotel. The Metro was full of people. There was people, Ellen, in opera clothes and in regular clothes and jeans and shorts, and everyone was laughing, and it was nice. It had a really good feel to be out there in a big city like DC on the Metro at night. It was just interesting.
Yes, in the fall, October is a particularly nice month to come. It tends to be pretty temperate. It could be very warm, but it's never super cool. It's just fall's a nice time to be in DC.
One last question, and we've really covered everything, but of course this webinar is going to be recorded, and everyone who registered for it automatically gets a link, so they could listen to it again if they wanted to. Here's an important question. Is there a place to jog or run around the hotel?
There actually is. It is right akin to a trail that runs along Rock Creek and Rock Creek Parkway. That's a very nice wooded paved trail. You can get that right off the front of the hotel. And the hotel itself has some really nice grounds, more walking paths. But yes, there's a jogging path right off of the hotel, and you could ask at the concierge desk. You basically go out the hotel and you take a right, and you would see it. You just go. It dips right down by Rock Creek.
Cool. Here's the last question, and it's from me, Ellen. Will you arrange a tour of the White House for me?
Fortunately, I don't have clearance to do
Oh, darn,
that.
darn.
I can direct you where it is if you'd like to see it from across the street. There are now barricades as to how close you can get to it, but you can certainly go and see it. And it is something to
Okay.
see if you've never seen the White House or the Capitol building. So I do encourage you to get down to the National Mall, and you will be in that area from the tour. And I will say, and we have had students do this, if you've gone on the tour and when the tour ends, you want to stay in downtown DC, you don't want to take the bus back, and you are going to be responsible for getting yourself back to the hotel, you certainly are allowed to do that. You would just need to let the person that we've put on the tour with you know that, so we know that you're not missing somewhere. So if you just say, hey, I'm gonna, go back on the metro. Thanks for the tour. We just check you off and know you're accounted for. So do you know that's an option to you as well? If you want to be one way out to the Smithsonian's and get back on your own and stay out a little longer, you could do that.
Well, that's a good idea. You mean the Air and Space, right? After the student tour, they can hang
That's
out
it,
down
yeah.
there if
That's
they
when you
want.
do the air and space, yes. And some students do elect to stay out on the mall and come back on their own.
All right, good. Ellen, that's our time for today. Thank you for the quick, very informative presentation. And colleagues, I hope to see you next week next month in DC. I like to wander around the student exhibits, and hopefully I'll have a chance to talk to you myself. Ellen, thank you again. And colleagues, as you leave today, I'm going to launch a very brief survey. This helps us improve this presentation as we do it in the future. So I'm going to launch the survey now. A new browser window will open up for you. Some older Macintosh systems, operating systems, don't show it. But just take a moment and answer those couple of questions that you see on our screen. Ellen, that officially ends our webinar today. Thank you again for the information. I'll see you next month in DC, or we'll see you next month in DC.
Great, thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. This concludes the audio portion of our webinar today.